All right, let's talk about trimmer heads today. I've got 3 different trimmer heads. These are all bump style heads. And what that means is as you need line, you bump the head on the ground and the head will advance more line. There's 3 different styles here. This top row, these are all the SpeedFeed heads. I believe it's by Echo. This is what I typically use, and we'll break them apart and show you how they work, and then troubleshoot one of the units. I've been having a lot of trouble this year with the SpeedFeed head, and it turns out it's not the SpeedFeed head, it's my trimmer, but we'll get into that. And then in the front here, I believe this is the unit that came with my trimmer. This is just the generic bump feed by Stihl, and then this is their new version, the AutoCut, I believe it's called. What's nice and why I use the SpeedFeed head is when you run out of line, you don't need to take anything apart. So what you do is there's an arrow on the head. You align the arrow to this hole, and if you get a good shot, essentially once you have this lined up, you feed line straight into here, and then you twist. So this winds your line. These are phenomenal to have in the field. You run out of line, you can pull a pre-cut length of line out of your pocket, feed it in, twist the head down, and you're up and running in a minute. What I like about the SpeedFeed over the Stihl is the way to wind these. So if you look, this is what's attached to your trimmer. You basically have this nice big area to grasp and to twist. With the Stihl, obviously they can't infringe on the patent too much, but they've replicated the same basic technology. When you run out of line, you line these arrows up with these marks on the head. You then feed your new line straight through here, and then you twist. And they make these little divots, but it's much harder. You're putting a lot of stress on your fingers. If you're running thin line like an 095, it's not that big of a deal. I typically will run 105. Occasionally I've gone up to 118. I've even fit 130 line in here. And then with 130, it's impossible to turn this by hand. You need a pair of pliers in there to grip this. So the Stihl, this is a high quality unit. My only issue with it is just ease of use. It's not as easy to use as the SpeedFeed head. And again, it comes down to these notches. You're basically using your 2 fingers to crank that, versus the Echo, in their larger unit, you've got your whole hand, so it's much easier to turn. So in this style, this is the old school bump style head. When you run out of line on this, you're having to pull it apart manually, run line into the spool, put it back together. It's probably not a huge difference. Maybe a minute and a half to respool this, versus a minute, half a minute on that. Only issue, taking this apart, these I find get more gummed up. So it's, a minute may turn into 2 or 3 by the time you get this apart, get the new line, thread it back in. Then you're running the risk of dropping something, having something fall out. With this SpeedFeed head, it's all contained. They're, like I said, if you don't have one, get one. They won't out of the box fit your Stihl. And I've been told multiple times that by the guys at my mower shop that don't get it, it won't fit. They do. You just need the correct nut. For the life of me, I don't know why the guys at my mower shop haven't figured that out by now. But I picked one of these nuts up probably in a different universal trimmer head kit, probably one with the blades. I've been keeping it around for a while, but that nut will fit on this Echo, which will then make it fit on your Stihl trimmer. So just to show you how these work real quick, we'll take this small unit apart. This is the only one I have that's working at the moment. Okay, you've got your cap with a spring, and that just holds everything together and puts pressure on here. You have this little spool. This is where your trimmer line gets wound against, and these little teeth are what keeps it engaged as it spins. And again, the spring puts pressure here. So when you wind your line, you're incrementing those teeth to the next spot. And then again, when you're bumping it, you're getting the pressure off of here enough that as it spins, it's gonna loosen itself. And they do that by this little plunger here. So this plunger essentially floats up and down. All right, so we get our spring back. Okay, so the last piece of this is this little hat, for lack of a better term. It's got these two dog ears that sit in this part of the plunger, and that's essentially what gives you your ability to depress the plunger. So right, so you tap the head, that depresses your plunger, and it lets this unit rotate. And that's what feeds your line out. And this one's a little gummed up, but you get the idea. So anyway, you can see this one's a little bit gummed up. It's not too bad. I still get deflection on it. Yeah, it's a little tough to use. Here's the new unit. You can see on this one, I can get that deflection by hand. Not a lot, but enough. And let me pull this one apart. There we go, this one's starting to go by hand. So here's my old unit. And you'll notice this is that little plunger. All right, so this is the plunger that sits up through here. And what happened is I noticed I wasn't getting any play, and you'll see this doesn't even fit in the hole anymore. Calipers on it. Okay, so that's a little over 1.25 inches. Just under 1.25 inches, 1.23-ish. If we look at how big this hole is, so that hole is 1.2. All right, so our hole in this is 1.2. The trimmer head is 1 point, where this little knuckle is mushroomed out on the top here. All right, so how did this happen? I forgot to grease my trimmer, basically. So the trimmer head started running hot. Let me pull the new unit apart. All right, so this is a brand new piece. This is the old head. You can see it fits on there, no problem. Again, this is the old one. Does not fit at all. All right, and we're gonna go take our measurements again. All right, so a hair over 1.2, it looks like 1.22. And if we look at the new one, I mean, that's a significant difference. All right, that's like 1.19. So what happened, like I said, this one's on me. I did not grease my trimmer like I should have. The grease in there had dried up this season. It started running hot. That heat transferred through this nut into this head. So as this head was spinning, it started to basically expand and mushroom out. So I figured I'd just shoot that video real quick, kind of explain the different heads, and give you guys a heads up as to what to look for. So if you notice that you're not able to feed your head, and you notice that you can't even do this by hand. So for me, that nut was essentially welded into place. I couldn't get any type of play on it. And what that meant was you better check your trimmer head for grease. It's not a defective unit from Echo or anything. I think it's just straight, I need to grease my trimmer head. So any questions, put them in the comments below. And also, another note on these Echoes, you'll find that this cap is the wearable part. Typically these will wear out first, especially if you've got a lot of rocky ground that you're covering. You get to the point where you've worn this away enough that it just won't engage anymore. When that happens, don't throw the unit out. Keep it, you never know, especially keep the nut. But also keep all these other components, because you never know when you're going to need to start swapping them out. Occasionally, so on this one you see that the ears have broken off. That is another common failure. So typically I get about a season out of this cap plate. Every now and then, so every other year, I seem to break the ears off of one of these, and I'm almost thinking this might too have something to do with the heat build up from lack of grease. So we're gonna get our head greased up and hopefully be back in business here. Thanks for watching.